Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the fourth and final day of the FT's Future of the Car Summit, the final leg of the marathon, so to speak. My name is Joe Miller. I'm the Financial Times Frankfurt correspondent, and those of you who are watching in the earlier days will have seen me there. Today, we're going to be talking about batteries all day, and in this particular fireside chat, we're going to talk to interesting pioneer in the battery space. But before I introduce our guest, just to remind you that at any time through this chat and indeed throughout the day, you can share your views using the hashtag FTCar on social media channels. And do please ask your questions using the chat box, which I believe is on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and we'll get to as many of them as possible. So without further ado, this is a fireside chat with Waseem Ashraf Qureshi, who's CEO of WRL Technologies. Welcome, Waseem. I think, are you joining us from the UAE? Is that correct?
Yes, Joe. Thank you very much for inviting me. And
Well,
yes, I am in our UAE facility in Dubai.
Well, you're very welcome. Those who are paying attention or were with us in the previous days of the Future of the Car conference will remember we spoke to Bilal Sheikh, one of your colleagues at WRL Technologies, and we spoke about supercaps. And I know you'll also be joining us a little bit later when we talk about solid-state batteries. We have a panel coming up on that. But for those who were not perhaps with us a couple of days ago, perhaps you could sum up for us what WRL Technologies is doing and what it is that you're so excited about in the battery space.
Yeah, sure. So primarily we have designed, developed, and actually invented energy storage technology, which is statics type of energy storage. Like in chemical batteries, you store energy electrochemically, while here we store energy uh, electrostatically. And these are basically very old technology which we have utilized for energy storage, which is supercapacitors. Supercapacitors have they have added advantages like you can charge them very fast, you can discharge them very fast as well. I will tell you later on that what we have done with that, or what is our IP on that. But first, let me explain the advantages of supercapacitors. You can use them on very high temperature. You can use them on very low temperature without any degradation. They have very high round trip efficiency, and on top of it, their life is very long, 45 years of calendar life, and 1 million times you can cycle them. On top of it, they have some disadvantages. That was the reason the industry was not using them, and that's where our IP came in. So the first biggest bottleneck when we were developing this technology was balancing supercapacitors. That
Hmm.
they were a device which can be charged very fast at a speed of 150 C. When you put them in series and parallel combination to get voltage and current, you get the same speed of imbalance. They tend to get imbalance on the same speed. So that was the first, challenge, or the first code we cracked, and it's part of our IP. And second biggest problem, they were having very linear voltage curve. We flattened up the voltage curve. That is the second code we cracked, and that is the second part of our IP. The third biggest problem with them was their energy density. They were only 9 to 11 watt hour per kilogram initially, and that was the third. We increased the energy density by using some material changes. And the fourth one was also a very big bottleneck. Uh, they, they, they could not retain energy for a longer period of time. Supercapacitor get depleted within 72 hours, more than 60% of their capacity. So we developed a charge retention system that can retain energy for longer. So these are four parts of our IP. And this is our technology about. It's around supercapacitors to make them work like a battery. And with this invention, we are able to give or present world a technology which have very long life, which can be charged very quickly, which has very high round trip efficiency do not get degraded over a period of time on higher and lower temperatures. This is our technology.
It's very interesting. It's obvious, I think, to almost anyone in the industry or even those observing the industry, what the advantages of supercaps, as you call them, some people call them ultra capacitors, the advantages are very obvious: incredibly fast charging time, fewer raw materials, more sustainability, etc. But as you mentioned, the big challenge has been the retention of that energy. How long do your batteries retain their energy? Is it the same as the sort of market standard lithium ion batteries that we see at the moment? In other words, that you can charge your EV and it basically lasts at least a week, if not longer.
Yeah. So yes, that is also an interesting part of the development when we were doing it. Initially, we achieved only 4 to 5 weeks. Then we developed further, and we got to a couple of months. But today, after 9 years of R&D, we have achieved less than 2% per month, which is much better than any chemical battery available in the world.
And we heard, I think it was 2 days ago, I'm losing track of the days here at the Future of the Car conference, that you are planning potentially to list in New York later this year. When will we see this technology, though, rolled out in cars? When do you think it will be ripe to be used in market-ready electric vehicles?
So, Joe, we started R&D in 2009. We completed our R&D in 2013, and that was the time we decided for the commercialization of the technology. We did our first phase in 2015, and which was mainly testing in different parts of the world. And we passed through the whole journey, and we decided as a strategy that we will adopt, we'll take this technology to the automobile industry in phase two, which is now. Initially, we did with stationary batteries. We have been very successful in stationary batteries. We win a lot of market. There's a lot of demand, and this factory in Dubai, we are producing stationary batteries for all over the world, for the whole world. And by the end of this quarter, we are very hopeful that by June we'll be in automobile industry.
Well, I see we've got some questions that have come in from people watching. One which refers back to, I'm not sure if you were able to watch when Elon Musk joined us a couple of days ago. And actually, one of the things we learned very interestingly, I certainly didn't know this, was that Elon Musk studied or was going to study supercapacitors at university and at Stanford, and actually abandoned his studies at some point. But he seemed quite clear that he didn't see the need for this technology, that he felt that the current battery technologies, existing battery technologies, would get us to decarbonization on their own. And the question is, why do you think people like that who have some knowledge of this technology, or at least had some back in the day, have reservations still, when people like yourself seem to have cracked some of the technological hurdles?
Yeah, so I should say that I saw that interview. Uh, uh, the Okay, so I think the technology is evolved to a level. Probably at that time when Mr. Musk was studying, the technology of supercapacitors was not to that level. And I told you that what four major technical hurdles we have covered. I think technology is ready for electric vehicles as of today, especially not only for vehicles but for avionics, for airplanes, for maybe SpaceX might be using supercapacitors very soon. I'm sure about that because after this standard supercapacitors, we have moved to the next level as well, which I would like, as you said, that it's in our next session, but I would like to highlight it here as well. Why I think we are ready for electric vehicle market is that the that we have developed now solid state supercapacitors, which are very high energy density, which is 450 watt hours per kilogram. And we anticipate that we can achieve 800 watt hours per kilogram. We are more than 1,200 watt per liter. And I would like to just show you this one.
Please
Can you
do.
see this one? Yeah. So
We can, yes, we can.
this is 1.2 kilowatt supercapacitor battery, which is in my hand, and you can see
Right.
that it is very lightweight and the energy dense, and it is supercapacitor. It has embedded electronics in it. It's not a cell. It's a complete usable battery. You can use it in any electric vehicle, and this is the evolution. And for this reason, I'm telling you the technology is ready for electric vehicle now.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can convince Mr. Musk at some point. There's a few other questions that have come in, Waseem. One is, at what scale are you producing supercap energy storage per month, is the question. I guess that's a question of your energy storage business.
Yeah. So right now, this factory where I'm sitting, this has a capacity of 1 gigawatt hour per year, and we are running almost at say 60% capacity, and that is mainly we don't have any the shortfall of 40% is not because of business, but because of supply chain and other things which we have managed, and very soon we are enhancing this factory. On top of it, we are planning to set up 8 more factories in different geographical regions around the world as well, and we foresee that supercapacitor energy storage system is the future of the industry.
Let me ask you about the so-called elephant in the room. And this is not just a question for the supercaps, it's a question for the so-called traditional battery industry too, which is cost. And cost is becoming a limiting factor now, given the high raw material prices. A lot of the projections that we've had for battery costs dropping by the middle of the decade now have to be scrapped. When you're coming along with a competing technology which doesn't use some of the raw materials in lithium-ion batteries, but also uses some raw materials, some other raw materials that don't exist in current batteries. What's your take, first of all, on where the cost curve is going? Do you still believe that this can compete, this technology can compete with the existing electric batteries?
Yeah. So first of all, I would like to tell you that the biggest advantage with our technology is that with the recent effect of pandemic in supply chain and prices and costs, didn't affected us at all. We never increased our prices for our product. We were steadily the same, and the materials we are using, they are abundantly available, they are biodegradable, and our batteries can are of longer life, 45 years, and can be recycled as well. So our technology is 100% green. A part of 6 or 7% is only the electronic boards which we are using. Uh, other than that, we are all recyclable, and there is no impact of costs, and we don't foresee. Actually, we are working hard to scale up the production to get the price reduction, and the main idea is to compete lead acid batteries. We are very hopeful that we'll be able to compete lead acid batteries in terms of price and cost.
One of the questions as well is, we know that there are some other large manufacturers who've invested in supercap startups who are interested in this technology, even though they are, perhaps still sticking to the traditional route for now, but they certainly have expressed an interest or have at least invested. But the question they get asked, and I suppose the question that I would like to ask you, is, does the entire industry need to be convinced that this is the future for this to work? Because it's hard enough building up the infrastructure that is needed for the current generation of batteries. It's hard enough building up charging points for the current generation of battery electric vehicles. It's such an enormous effort to get the raw materials needed. If this is going to work, do you need everyone to basically go through this conversion and realize this is the future and put their efforts and indeed their money into this technology?
Joe, I will say that action will speak louder than words. The moment we entered into stationary battery market, we 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 pitched the first industry we pitched was telecommunication, and when we did our proof of concept with these companies, they straight away switched to us. They refused every energy storage system and switched to us because we proved that we are cheaper, we are better, we are long term product, and same will be in electric vehicle industry. We are talking to a lot of EV companies, and I'm very sure very soon we'll be putting up our storage systems in some vehicles. Although we are starting from some high performance vehicles where supercapacitors really add a big value, and later on for the charging stations as well. You know, when you introduce a product which can be charged at 150 C, which is 16 seconds, so what can be achieved? We are going to introduce world the mobility people are used to. You go to a gas station, you fill in gas, and when you get low in gas, you find another gas station. The same way we can operate or we can use our electric vehicles. That's what we are offering to the world, and I'm sure chemical batteries won't be able to do that.
Waseem, we have another question that's come in on supply chains, and I know you've already said that you think there are significant advantages when it comes to supercaps and securing the raw materials, but nonetheless, you need graphene, for example. Just a question asking, do you not foresee any shortfall of supplies?
Well, for graphite, there is no shortfall all over the world. It's been mined a lot, and it can be collected as well. Yes, processing graphene is done in certain countries, mainly in China. We are doing the same, and when we'll get a bottleneck on that, we'll find a solution, or we'll do our own graphene processing as well. So I don't foresee any problem for graphene.
We're almost out of time, Waseem, but I want to come to one other question, which is something that we'll be hitting on today, which is recyclability and sustainability. And the question is, will increased battery diversity have a negative impact on the recyclability? And I suppose that goes back to the question I was asking earlier, and that it's enough of an effort to set up recycling schemes for the current generation of batteries. Do you think that it's possible to have sustainable supercaps in this environment?
Yeah, the supercapacitors are sustainable. They are biodegradable. They are 60% biodegradable. So recycling is much easier, and 80% of a supercapacitor can be recycled. And on top of it, it's a very long life product. So after 45 years, you get a problem of recycling, and which is very easily doable.
Yeah, it's a 45-year problem rather than say a 10-year problem. We've just
Yeah,
got 1 minute left.
correct.
I thought I would ask you. Obviously, planning to go public a little bit later this year. What is the ultimate goal, though? When do you think you will have reached your ultimate goal? What is that? Is that to be in a certain amount of countries? Is that to be have a certain amount of contracts with different manufacturers? What is the sort of inflection point you're looking for?
So let me tell you the journey, how we went through. So the first thing, we invented the technology. Then the second phase was we developed product based on that technology. The third phase was we rolled out that product in 53 different countries to mature the product. And now we are at the phase of scaling. So I'm pretty sure that in maximum couple of years time, uh, we will make a big disruption in the market of energy storage.
Well, we hope to see you again at this conference in a couple of years' time then, and you can update us.
Sure.
But for those of you who still had questions that we didn't get to, the good news is that Waseem will be joining us a little bit later again for a panel. But for now, thank you very much, Waseem, for your time. We'll see you again soon, and please stay tuned for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you.